Welcome back to our special series from Silicon Valley as Michigan founders take on AI and technology at Startup Grind's Conference 2025. Imagine this, a future where your AI assistant books appointments directly for you or makes purchases by going directly to websites. No browsing, no humans required, just AI talking to AI. It is not a thing of the future. It is happening right now. Our next expert breaks it all down, reintroducing us to the world of artificial intelligence and advocating that AI is here to give us a head start. And small businesses especially take note. You need to pay attention. Expert Connections starts now. Today on Expert Connections, we are joined by guest Jesse Flores. He has been on the show many times before in our AI and marketing connection segments. Today, he is here as a pioneer in AI-powered websites. Live from the Startup Grind conference, I sat down with Jesse to learn how his team is building what's called super sites. That's right, sites that use AI to talk to other agentic websites. They're designed not for people, although people can use them too, but they're designed for the future of AI. Take a look. Welcome back. I am here with Jesse Flores, founder of Super Web Pros and first-time attendee of the Startup Grind conference. Jesse, thanks for taking time out of the conference. It's happening behind us to take a moment on the podcast. We have interviewed Jesse numerous times about AI, including about his latest development at Super Web Pros called Super Sites. Jesse, you and I were both in a session yesterday that featured Superhuman's founder. And Raul talked about all of the things that he and his team are working on as they prioritize AI as it relates to email.
Yes.
And I couldn't help but look at you and see you nodding, as he's talking, and really, really great talk, by the way, that he did.
It's fantastic.
But I couldn't help, thinking as I'm looking at you and hearing him speak, we're right in the front row, that he's talking about agentic AI as it relates to email.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you and your team are working on right now for websites.
Yes.
Tell us about this.
Yeah. So this is actually something that's really, really exciting. It sounds like a harebrained idea. And the more that I sit in this conference, the more I realize it's not that it's harebrained, it's that we're early. One of the things about Superhuman and what they're doing is like email is like not sexy, right? When you're talking to looking at some of the sessions here and everyone's working on like these cutting edge technologies that no one's ever heard of, or if you're a developer like me, like you're like, oh, I'm really excited about open source fireworks AI. You're like, well, why do I care about inference models? Well, you don't, but I do. Like that's kind of the vibe here. But email's like not sexy, and websites aren't sexy, but they're ubiquitous. Everybody needs email.
Yeah.
Everybody has email. Everybody needs a website. Everybody has a website. And so I think the way that they were approaching it and the way that we're thinking about this is how can we help increase adoption in something that's going to be intuitive and necessary for everybody. And with smart sites, that's really what we're looking to do. It's looking to, like, I believe very strongly that within a couple of years, maybe sooner, there will be more agents on the internet, more AI agents on the internet than there will be humans navigating the internet. And that sounds crazy if you're not here, because you're like, well, why is that a thing? And the way I think about this, and the way that I've talked to some of our customers and clients about this is, well, like you would have said the same thing in 1996 when I'm like, hey, you should have a website, right? I'm like, why would I need that? Like, why do I need to be on this thing called the internet? The answer is because it's going to be a massive network of connected, in this case, websites that that people are going to use to figure out how to find information and solve problems. The same thing's going to happen with AI. It's only a matter of time before, and in fact, if you're sophisticated, you can actually already do some of this now. It's only a matter of time before most of us are, for instance, doing things like, hey, I need a new pair of running shoes. And rather than going to X website, I'm just going to tell my agent, hey, I need a new pair of running shoes. Can you go find me the best deal? And that agent is going to go to website A, website B, website C, and find that information and then give me the results. Except websites are built for humans, right? So that what that means is that websites are built with things like buttons and calls to action and different pages.
Pretty pictures, design, things that in the marketing world we love, but also those are for our human users.
Those are for humans. AI doesn't need any of that. And so what will happen is, I think, is two things. One, I think websites that are built currently only for humans will need to evolve to be built for humans and for AI. So thinning out existing websites so that they work for both citizens on the internet. But the other thing that's going to happen is there will be this additional, what's called protocol, where only AIs are navigating. And when I go and I ask my AI assistant to find me a new pair of shoes or get me a quote on, find me someone that can give me a quote for new siding on my home, that doesn't need to use a browser. That AI doesn't need a browser. It doesn't need to go to google.com. It doesn't need to pull up Chrome. It can just work in the background. And what it'll do is it'll go to weathervaneroofing.ai, which is one of our clients and who's got a smart site on the way that we're developing right now. And it'll be able to go to Weathervane's website and connect with it on the AI level, get all of the corpus of information that Weathervane has already produced about their approach to roofing and siding and all the other things. It will talk to their AI. It will get a quote from their AI, or at least the parameters for a quote by their AI. And then their AI and our AI will work together to book an appointment for them to show up at my house. And that sounds crazy, but what'll then happen is I'll get a text message that says, Chris from Weathervane will be at your house tomorrow at 8:30. And I'll be like, oh, am I free at that time? Well, it will have already checked my calendar, right? So all of that stuff will have happened under the hood, and it sounds nuts when
unless you're here, where people like Superhuman's founder and all of the other speakers on stage are talking about this already being developed within their platform.
Yes.
So Jesse, to your point, and one of the things that I found, and I keep bringing up Superhuman because I think email is so closely tied to websites that I think there's a direct correlation here that will help our viewers to kind of see where we're going here, because not all of us are as technically inclined like Jesse and his team of developers. So for instance, Raul at Superhuman was talking about how, let's say, you open your inbox, but you're not really opening your inbox. You are talking to your AI agent to open your inbox, and you're saying, prioritize by the top, 10 important emails today. And then it's reading to you. The first one is trying to schedule a lunch with so-and-so for Wednesday. And then you say, nope, can't do Wednesday, but let's set up Thursday at noon at whatever place. Well, now that agent within your email is going to respond to the email for you, setting up lunch, reach out perhaps to the restaurant to set up that reservation, and coordinate all of those details for you.
Yes.
And so, Jesse, what you're talking about,
multiple agents. Yep, sorry.
Yes. And so what you're talking about are those agents. So explain like an AI agent, like what do you mean by agent?
So actually, let's use your example with Superhuman. I actually kind of love this. So let's imagine that you just scheduled this appointment, or you said, look, I want to go ahead and book a reservation for dinner at XYZ restaurant. Okay. Now, your AI has two choices. Okay. Choice number one would be to go to xyzrestaurant.com and browse to search, where is the book now button? I don't know. I'm going to keep searching on it until I find it. That's one option. Actually, I guess it has three options. Second option is it goes to some form of Google, which means it's going to find Open Table, right? And it's going to go
if you're on Open Table.
If you're on, right? So if you go on to Open Table, and it'll try and use Open Table's website to do that. What's most likely going to happen, though, is it will go to restaurant XYZ.ai, or the agent version of this or let's call this AI.xyz.com. That way it doesn't sound like you have to get a whole new domain. It'll be part of your existing infrastructure. And it will look to see, I'm going to talk with Julie's Italian restaurant.com.
Because it already knows my preferences.
It already knows
preferences, it's my agent.
And it knows that I need to book for two people at that particular time. And so it's going to go to that website or that website's AI version of this and make that reservation using their reservation system. Because what will happen is ai.juliesrestaurant.com will have access to things like, for instance, its reservation software. It'll have access to things like the capacity requirements, whatever other information is there. So that website, which today is just a place where I can go browse that menu, and has a bolted on reservation calendar, will be accessible via AI, where AI can then book that reservation. Now, I'll say this too. This is actually a pretty urgent thing for small businesses without realizing. And I'll use this example. When OpenAI released what's called their operator, and this was a couple of months back, the operator is something that if you're on like premium ChatGPT, you can see this work. And we probably have demos if you follow us on social media. I think we've got some demos of this working, so you can see what this looks like. When that first came out, I was working late, and so Allison texted me and she said, "Hey, can you pick up Pete away on the way home for dinner?" And I said, "Sure, I'm kind of busy, but I guess that's one more thing I can do." So I went to OpenAI's operator and I said, "Hey, can you place an order for two, or can you give me 2 orders of chicken shawarma and have it ready for pickup?" It couldn't navigate Pete Away's website. Okay, so it went to their website and it tried to figure it out. And because of the way that Pete Away's reservation system worked, it couldn't add to cart. Every time I tried to add to cart, it actually ended up closing the window. So it ran for about 5 or 6 minutes, and I was meeting. I turn around to see if it's done, and I see it just in this loop. And I said, forget it. Just go to Grubhub and find me 2 orders of chicken shawarma, because I knew Grubhub's website would work, right? And so it did. So it went to.
And now imagine small businesses, you're hearing this, and if your website does not work for an AI agent, that means the loss of a sale. Pete Away lost your sale that day.
They did. I went to Grubhub, right? And so I went to Grubhub and I ended up getting something from, I think Aladdin's or some other restaurant. That restaurant, by the way, got the order from Grubhub, which is great for them, but also like they're paying a commission to Grubhub every time that you order on Grubhub, and Pete Away could have had that sale had their site been AI compliant, and Aladdin's probably could have gotten it too had their site been AI compliant. But right now we have to rely on things like Grubhub and OpenTable, right? I think one of the reasons why this is such an urgent problem for me is because these companies like OpenTable, Grubhub, DoorDash, Angie's List, Thumbtack, right? These companies that have spent years building and aggregating all of this data, which on the one hand give channels to all of these businesses to be able to access a broader market, also squeeze the margins of those same businesses, right? That's the price to pay.
That's their business model.
That's the business model.
That's how they make money.
And so the sites that are able to rank, let's say, and be workable, from what most businesses call SEO, they don't have to pay the DoorDash tax. They don't have to pay the Grubhub tax, because they know that if I rank for chicken shawarma near me, like I can, and I have online ordering, I can get the order and not pay the 10% fee. But if I'm not one of those, I'm going to be beholden to either invisibility, or I'm going to be beholden to paying the fee to DoorDash, Grubhub, Angie, Thumbtack, whatever that is. And our hope, our goal is to try and help more and more of these businesses that not have to always pay that tax all the time. And what's fascinating is that we are at the beginning right now of this transition on the internet, where when agents start to go out and find other websites on the internet, other agentic websites on the internet, this is like day 0 for Google, right? So for those companies that are willing and able to invest in these agentic experiences early, it'll basically be the equivalent if you were like the first person on Google. And that's a massive opportunity, because that's a winner take most environment, right? If you ranked in Google, like, it is very difficult to displace you. And that'll be the same thing for these companies that are on agentic websites.
And it's so important to say, this is not, you said a few times, this sounds crazy. Well, it does if you're not here in Silicon Valley, where, anywhere you step, you are a stone's throw away from someone who is working on something that involves agentic AI. We hear at conference after conference, but also not only that, This is not just happening in Silicon Valley. Of course, we think of this area as the innovation hub of the United States, but your work is being done back in Michigan, back in Lansing, Michigan. And this is work being replicated everywhere right now. And so it might sound futuristic if this is new, but it is not in the future. It is now. And in fact, Jesse, we were talking, Google has released its protocol. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes. Yeah. So Google released a couple of weeks ago this thing called the A2A protocol. And this is the culmination of work that they've been doing to try and build what's called the agentic web. You see, one of the things that I think you probably most people intuit, but maybe haven't seen the data for it, is that like ChatGPT and AI has really put a dent in Google traffic. Right?
Oh yeah.
Because if I can get better answers, richer answers from ChatGPT, I don't really need to do as many searches.
Do you know, I don't know, I'm putting you on the spot. Do you know percentage wise of how much Google searches are down compared to, I don't know actual numbers, but I know even in my own household, we were looking to buy a gift for someone the other day, and our first action was to go to ChatGPT to narrow down what we were looking for and what site to buy it on. Yep. And so if ChatGPT cannot find your website, you're missing out on those searches. We talk about that a lot with our marketing clients. You talk about it with your website clients. If because I remember back in the day, it would be, oh, if you're not findable on Google or Bing or Yahoo, you had all these different search platforms. If they can't find you, the people who are using that platform are missing out on you. So right now, people using ChatGPT or other AI agents are not finding you.
Yes. Yeah, I don't remember the exact percentage. I've got it. I think we've published it on our website somewhere. But I think it's double digit, right?
So we can ask your agentic website.
You can ask,
when you go to superwebpros.com, you can actually ask if you want to.
Yeah, actually, our website's already agentic, right? So you could go to our website.
A great side note for human users: when you go to an agentic website, like a super site that Jesse's team has built, you can, as a human, ask it anything you want, and it will comb through the resources on that website, find you the answer without you having to find the answer within the website. Okay, back to the protocol.
One of our clients actually said it really, really best, because he has he's got an e-commerce store, and he's got a lot of different products. And he said, it frustrates me that the people that come to my website have to be experts at my website to find my stuff. And I'm like, that's what we're trying to invert.
Right. How many of your customers are experts already on the products they're looking for or services from you? Probably not many. I mean, we often talk about like translating the language into their language.
Yep.
This does it for you.
And even if they're not experts on the products, like they have to be experts on the navigation. Like am I looking for something under services or solutions? I don't know. Like, because sometimes somebody thinks like that, I want to call that thing on the navigation services. Sometimes I want to call it solutions. Sometimes I want to call it products. I don't know. Like, and my job as a user is to like figure out like, where is the thing I'm looking for? Well, the way I've sort of thought about this before is it's the equivalent to going into, say, a department store. Now, you go into a department store and there's signage everywhere, men's clothes are that way and shoes are that way and women's is this way, right? If you walk into a department store and there is nobody at all anywhere in the store to help you, you've got to go in and you've got to figure out where the thing is you're looking for, whether or not it's in stock, whether or not it's in your size, whether or not it's even the right thing for you, right? So imagine you go into a department store and there's not a single human anywhere in that store, and you're vaguely aware of what you need. Like, how long are you going to stay in that store before you decide, like, forget it, I'm just going to go to this other store that can help me?
Yes.
And you'll just do that, right?
Yes.
Now, we're talking about the real world, but in the digital world, we've never been able to brook that gap, because in the digital world, there has never been a way for me to put a person on a page to basically do what I would do in person. Like, if I were to go into an actual department store, now one that's well staffed, and I walk into the men's shoes, like, there's going to be a person that comes up to me and says, "Can I help you find something?" And I'm going to say, "I need a new pair of running shoes." And they're going to be like, "Well, they're going to look and they're going to say, I have on clouds." And be like, "Well, would you like another pair of on clouds? You're looking for something different. How much are you running?" They're going to ask me a whole lot of questions to help me find the right product to solve my need. We've never been able to do that online.
And even getting close to that, we've still had to guess.
Yes.
Right. So like, even with maybe the first chatbots that we saw on the market, years ago, we still, as the creators of those bots, had to guess what people were going to ask
Yes.
and have those answers readily available.
Yes. But now if you've got all of your inventory indexed in AI, plus all of your helpful documents or all the years of experience that you and your team have cultivated, well, now the AI can facilitate that conversation. And so, yeah, like I don't remember exactly what the percentage change in Google is, but if you go to talk to our website, like it'll not only tell you, it'll tell you where it got that information from. It'll tell you the implications for it. It'll tell you whether or not your business is even a good fit for a smart site, right? Because like it knows based on the work that we've been doing whether or not your business is a good fit. And these are conversations that maybe I would have had to have previously, but now you as a visitor to our website can have on your own and decide whether or not it's worth us having an additional conversation. Back to your question about agent protocol, though. So this thing that Google released has been as a culmination of them recognizing that there will be more more agents than humans on the internet before too long, and that they need to communicate in different ways. And so this protocol is basically their standard for how AIs should communicate online. And our smart sites that we're building are designed to be compliant with this so that your agents, i.e. your agentic website, will be available on this agent protocol, so discoverable by agents and used by other AI agents. And that's what Google is releasing. It's not yet in production, but they've released the specs so developers like us can build to it, but they'll release it this year.
And that's one of the things that's been so exciting, being at this conference and hearing about all of these apps, all of these platforms that are making updates and focusing on the agentic AI, is then who are they going to communicate with? And Jesse, what your team is working on is the answer to that, and very exciting to have that be happening in Lansing, Michigan. Jesse, so this is your first Startup Grind conference. So before we go, I can't help but ask, what are some other things that you will take away from this conference and take from Silicon Valley and bring back with you to Michigan?
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, it's one of my things on my list to do today is to synthesize everything that I've been learning, because I've been
it's
taking
gonna take a while,
all sorts of notes. I think one of the biggest things, and as we've been bouncing around this, is like AI is not just a ChatGPT chatbot. AI with the ability to reason, which is happening, and AI with the ability to use tools, which is also a thing, is a transformative technology. It will not replace humans, it will augment them, but it will augment them in really interesting ways. And one of the things I've taken away is where and how do we prepare for and evolve our team, our business model, our products to be augmented with and by AI. And I think that is a big open question. Everyone is discussing it. There's a lot of different flavors for a lot of different industries. But that is one of the things that I'm really thinking a lot about is what does it look like to coexist with AI?
Jesse Flores, founder of Super Web Pros, thank you so much for taking time out of Startup Grind's global conference to talk with us here on Expert Connections. We will link to Super Sites, all the links so you can contact Jesse. I'll also throw in there some of the links to the demos that Jesse has done with us so you can see Super Sites in action. Jesse, thanks for being on the show.
Really, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And stay tuned for the next video. We have more from Michigan founders, more from Startup Grind's conference coming at you next. Our huge thanks goes to Leap, SmartZone, and Foster Swift Collins and Smith for powering this special series of Expert Connections brought to you live in Silicon Valley. That is all for this episode. We will see you over in the next video. Be sure to stay tuned for more from Michigan founders working in the world of AI and technology. We'll see you there.